Hi, Meg here, or as someone on Twitter made me earlier on, they made me a BBC Two 1980s radio jingle. So fantastic, I'm obsessed. Today we're talking about question number 2 of the 4 planning questions. And question number 2, so question number 1 was, what do you know, or what you might be able to guess about who's going to be listening to your presentation. Question number 2 is about the actions that you want people to take. Every presentation you do, you're doing it because you want people to do something. And this is something that I kind of fight people a little bit about because it's super helpful. Sometimes the action's really obvious. So this week I was coaching someone who was pitching, and we were going through their pitch deck to go and talk to angel investors. The action she wants them to take is really obvious. She wants funding. She wants them to invest. Sometimes there's a double outcome. So I work with a lot of lawyers, and sometimes they're doing law briefings on changes in the law. And one of the things that they want to have happen is they want people to change their practice, so that they're doing particular things in combination with this change in the law. But also the reason they're doing them for the firm is they want people to instruct the law firm. So there's like a learning outcome and a business outcome, and it's important to have both of those in mind. I mean, look, I'm doing these videos. Yes, I want you to be changing the way that you do presentations, because I think that's part of my role in the world, is helping people to not have presentations be so dramatic, and have really good people who then stand up and are themselves when they stand in front of a group, so that you're able to get your message over. But I'm also doing it, so that's like the learning outcome. I also have a business outcome. Like, I want you to, when you think you need some coaching, you think of Meg. That's pretty straightforward, right? Sometimes people, particularly like academics or people with conceptual stuff, find it hard to come down from understanding. But if you were, let's say you were an environmental activist and you were talking to people about Kate Raworth's donut economics, maybe you're doing a presentation about that, and you go, well, I want them to understand the donut. I want them to appreciate the donut. And the donut is, the outside of the donut is the planetary limits that we need to not go beyond. The inside of the donut is the human, social justice, democracy, well-being stuff we need to not go under. And Kate's idea is that we, rather than having this weird growth curve which goes on forever, that we need to be living inside the donut. Now, you may be doing some education about that, but really, you still want people to take action. You either want them to run their business so that it stays within the donut, or you want them to lobby so that policies are changed so that governmental stuff stays within the donut. But there's actions that you want people to take. There's 2 parts to action that I think are important to consider. So you want it to be, the full question is, what do you want people to be able and motivated to do after your presentation? Because sometimes you have to have both. If someone is able to do something, I'm able to hoover every day. I've got a hoover. I've got carpet that needs hoovering. I don't want to. My nan would probably not be very proud of me. So you have to have both, but sometimes there's a thing that you want to do but you're not able to do. So I was thinking this morning about, what if I wanted to be a glass blower, like I wanted to learn glass blowing. What might get in the way of that? Well, right now equipment would get in the way, because I don't have a glass furnace and a don't know, whatever, equipment. Evidently, I also don't have know-how. Like, I don't know how one blows glass. Maybe I don't have the time. Maybe I don't have the budget, and maybe I need to get budgetary sign-off from my people who I share my joint account with. So maybe I don't have the money, or there's the money there, but I need to get sign-off. So there's things around resources, there's things around time, there's things around equipment, there's things around budget, there's things around like circumstances and environment. And so it's important that so I might want to do that, but at the moment I can't. So even if you did a really good presentation about glass blowing that made me really motivated, you'd also need to help me think about, how do I access the equipment, how do I get the money, and so when you're doing your presentation, you've got to think, are people able and motivated to do the thing that I'm recommending? And the motivation you can often supply a bit, because you can give good arguments. And also, if you're doing something that you want people to change, it's important you don't just help them be able to do it, you also need to help them to want to do it. And when we get to questions 3 and 4, particularly question 4, that's really going to help. But the other way around is that if you can't just leave people wanting to do something, you also want them to know how. So if they are going to have to get budgetary sign-off, then it may be that you need to think about helping them to explain it to their boss, to the budget holder. And yes, there's that quote about don't teach them how to build the ship, but give them the longing for the sea. Whose quote was that? It's in my head somewhere. But you're more likely to both give them the longing for the sea and also go, here's where the resources are to learn how to build a ship, and here's where you need to start. Next steps are important, so that they actually are more likely to go and build the ship. Think about the actions you want them to do during the presentation. How do you want them to be responding? The actions immediately after the presentation. What kind of questions or discussion do you want to have happen? The actions that day, next week, next month, maybe even next year. You can have your eye on the future. Obviously, those probably get a bit less specific as you go into the future. So even if you go, but my presentation's really, no, it's just theory, I just want them to appreciate. Even if you were a lecturer in university, there's still a thing where you're going, I want people to do this in their exam. I want them to do this in this essay. I want them to, when they start putting this into practice, that they start doing this type of curatorial approach, or when they're in the lab, they do a thing. Yeah, I am running out of academic examples. So even if you're just humouring me, see what happens when you take it down to actions, because then you can plan backwards, and you will find that there's schemas and understandings that people need in order to take those actions. But if that's all you provide, it may be that you don't get the results that you need. Whereas if you're able to go backwards from the action, it makes it much simpler. You're able to streamline your presentation a lot more, and make it really relevant, and use those 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, 45 minutes, hopefully not longer than 45 minutes, in a really focused way. The next question we're going to think about is, what if you were to walk straight up to people and just say, do this thing? What would be going on in their mind? And that's the key to being interesting and relevant. So see you there. Click whatever you need to click in order to get notified of new videos, and I'll see you in the next one.